Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and it is your weekend edition of Viewpoint on DBS television. We are still on the matter of the 11th of February and the cancellation of the March Pass. But hopefully, yesterday wasn't bad enough, and given that it was a whole week activity to commemorate the National Youth Day, we are crowning today's edition with finding an aspect of how the March Pass will help reduce the spread of COVID-19. But given that it is a debate, we are always having a guest with us, accompanied by our home panel to discuss about relative issues. And we had Noche Pia. I think it's on Monday. He's back again for today's edition. Epia Nochavi, good evening, and thank you very much for coming again. Twice a week is not easy.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Not for everybody anyway.
Good evening, Vanessa. Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone watching us from home.
A happy National Youth Day.
I don't know.
Mango Venashus, you're welcome. A happy week start.
Thank you, Vanessa. At the beginning of the weekend, what I was really laughing at was the hesitance which Nosh took it to say that he is no longer a youth.
No, he's a youth.
Well, his
reaction
says him out to, because he says his reaction would have been, normally he would have just simply said thank you and
it's a fact now. This one I say historical fact, he's a youth.
We're
not idea about that. Yes, this one is a historical fact. He's a youth because we know the time range according to the constitution.
70 years.
I've not said 70. I did not say so. Anyway, happy National Youth Week to all of us again, because we are still in a mood of celebration. But the Viewpoint is a debate program divided into two parts. Let us take the questions. You are all welcome back. In question 1, can cancelling February 11 activities curb the spread of COVID-19 infections? Notch? Yes or no?
No.
No. Mango Venashus?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. And are there extra opportunities for the youth in this COVID-19 period? Mango Venashus?
I don't see them, Vanessa.
You don't see them? No. Notch?
So many opportunities. In fact, they're unlimited.
They are unlimited. So many opportunities. Let us have the debate. And cancelling February 11 activities curb the spread of COVID-19 infections. Not cheap, you think that that cannot curb the spread of the coronavirus pandemic infection? So, if you cannot curb the spread, then why organize a lot of other activities, knowing fully well that those other activities are a breeding ground to spread the virus?
Vanessa, the first thing is, before we start talking about it, I would like us to understand that from my personal viewpoint, I'm going to say a lot of things, but I want us to understand that I have no personal issue with the celebration of the Youth Day, and the Youth Week in general, and I have no personal issues with other activities running within the country, and all of these activities. Vanessa, I want to ask you, when you talk about
anyway, I'm the one asking questions here. You're not asking me questions. Okay. I'm the one.
Sorry about that. Okay, I want us to understand cancelling the February 11 activities. Of course, I'm not here to also encourage. I'm not here to talk about the political and whatsoever aspect of the week or of the day. But then, what other possibilities do we have of this virus spreading? How do you want to stop something, and then you stop an activity that is going on, that brings people together, and then there are other activities that still brings about people. Today is the 12th. You have an activity that is a historical fact for the country. without encouraging, without being in support of it, you cut it off, and then on the same day, you have another activity, which is a concert, where many people will gather. So, how do you justify that fact? So, when I don't know what the goal is. I want us to understand the goal, but I don't know what the goal is. I don't know, cutting off of the activities, what was the aim? The aim is to prevent, is to limit the spread of the virus. But now, how do you want to limit the spread of the virus when at the same time you're organizing concerts? I think in yesterday's edition of this very program, Mr. Venatius spoke about the chant that just took place. How do you want to limit the spread of the virus, and then you have a competition like that take place in this same country? He asked the same question I'm going to ask him in his own words. Which events can take place in Cameroon that will bring people together more than the capacity that the Japoma Stadium could bring? Which event will take place in this country that will bring people together more than the capacity that the Omispo Stadium could bring? So these are things that happen that could spread the virus. These things are not being stopped. So why is the focus only on the March Pass? That is the thing we need to understand, because there are so many other activities. You go to the market, Vanessa. When you go to the market, are you safe? Do you feel safe? If we are really talking about the virus, do you feel safe when you're in the market? The congestion that exists, do you feel safe? When you go to the supermarkets, do you feel safe?
Anyway, even besides you, I'm asking myself if I'm safe.
Exactly. Even in the supermarket, they say you're standing on the line. What is the barrier measure? In schools, do we feel safe? I don't know if it's the governor. Permit me if it's an error, you forgive me. But I think it's the governor of the Central Region. If it's not the governor, sent out a communique that was restricting, that was like a warning to schools within the Central Region, talking about the fact that they've not been respecting barrier measures in schools and so on. So if already at the level of the schools, they are not, these barrier measures and all of this is not being respected. So it's on this particular day that people will get infected. I want to understand. So,
in your opinion, with these few points raised,
I don't see how, because we are already exposed. There are so many activities that are already exposed. I feel like it's even a possibility, a setup to squander or embezzle some money. That is what that's what I feel like, because a concert is organized on this same day where people will have to pay between 300,000 to 1 million to have access. People will have to buy a bottle of water for 20,000 francs. People will have to buy a small bottle of juice for 20,000 francs. This activity is being sponsored by the same ministry that has stopped the March Pass from taking place. So,
and in addition to that, extracurricular activities are still going on within the schools.
Exactly. I doubt if the real interest is trying to stop the prevention, because like the really
spread.
Spread, stopping the spread. I don't think that's ready, because if that is the issue, then activities like the chant that took place, the concerts that have been taking place, all the other activities that have been taking place will be limited and will be stopped.
Thank you very much, Etienne, for your point of view. But Mangavenashus, you rather think that stopping the March Pass is a way to limit the spread of the coronavirus?
Yes, Vanessa, when we look at the safety protocols that were given out by the World Health Organization on the onset of this pandemic, one of the principal ways of curbing the spread of the pandemic was prohibiting mass gathering. I don't want to go into the numbers of those who are gathering. And there is something in English that says, two wrongs can never make a right. It's true. Like Mr. AP is saying, we had faltered by organizing Shan. At the same time, crying that, when I say organizing Shan here, I mean by opening the Shan, the stadium, for people to go into the fields. If we are talking about celebrating the Youth Day virtually, which to me it is still a very big concept that I have been struggling to understand since yesterday, I have not succeeded, we would have as well organized the Shan virtually, which is even practical doing than the celebration of the 11th February. Because they could still play the matches without people coming into the stadium like they have been doing in other Western countries, and we watch from our homes. Even if you say just the journalists that are coming, just place the journalists, one at this other end of the stadium, one at the other end of the stadium, at least they are as far wide in such a way that the rate of contamination will be minimized. But the fact that we organize it is like trying to preach virtue and practice vice. So talking about prohibiting the 11th February's March Past celebration, I think it is another event of mass gathering, and just prohibiting it by itself would have stopped the number of coronavirus, the virus itself that would have circulated among our young people. Remember that you cannot talk of any gathering because they used to tell us that any gathering from above 50, and in every ceremonial ground across the country would have had more than 50 people, and these are potential breeding grounds for the virus. So I think that just stopping it in one way or the other slows down or even curb the spread of the pandemic. It's true. Like they say, schools are still going on. It's true.
What else?
They are still organizing concerts, like Mr. Pierre is saying. It's true. But I think that from the 11th of February, the prohibition from 11th of February, I think that is where we should have continued. Because the one thing with human being is, if you are able, if you have that capacity, if you have that, how do they call it, that courage to accept that it was an error. I faltered here. Let me take off from here, trying to right the wrongs. We faltered. That is a fact. Let us right the wrongs by cancelling these concerts that he is saying. It would show a sign of progress. But if we end only in prohibiting 11th of February and we keep organizing concerts, keep organizing symposiums, keep organizing what they call in French the foire, they call
trade fairs.
Actually, I think we are, like I said, preaching virtue, and practicing vice. So I think that if we just the fact that we have prohibited it was a good opportunity that would have saved the lives of many young people, Vanessa.
Okay, Mange Venatius, Epie.
There's an aspect that Mr. Venatius is talking about, but it appears he's not being clear. There is a difference between health protocol and the reality. This debate, it's particularly with precision to the 11th of February. In this case, we can say this debate is with particular precision Cameroon.
Yes.
That's one thing we can say. Maybe other debates sometimes we can globalize, but this debate is particular Cameroon. Now, how do you say that restricting people from marching will curb the spread of the virus when on the same date, the same day, a concert is being sponsored by the same ministry that is prohibiting the march past? That is the problem. That is why I say there is an agenda behind everything, because the goal is not, yes, restricting people from gathering according to the health norms and regulations will curb the spread.
But
we
is it
all know
that these students, they still meet in school in numbers, more than 50 of them?
I am telling you
during
that
their extracurricular activities that took place over the bilingualism and the National Youth Week, before crowning the celebration on the 11th of February, they were still gathering more than 50 of them.
Of course, and that is what I meant by we were wrong in all these aspects that you are highlighting. It was not, it doesn't tie with barrier measures to fight the spread of this pandemic.
So we were wrong, and the best way to start correcting it is to stop the children from marching on the 11th of February.
At one point,
by the Ministry of Youth, is Youth and
Civic Education.
At the same time, there's the same ministry sponsoring the concert of an artist on that same date.
That's why I said at one point there is always a starting point, because if we don't
so the starting point is on the evening of the 11th of February when there will be a concert. That's the starting point.
Well, you are right.
Thank you.
Understand?
Let us take a second part of the question. Are there extra opportunities for the youth in this COVID-19 period? This question comes in relation to the theme of this 55th edition of the National Youth Celebration Day, Youth Resilience, Challenges and Opportunities in Times of COVID-19. Epiono Chavi, you said we have unlimited opportunities within this period. of the coronavirus pandemic. So what are some of those opportunities?
One reality about life is gloomy and dark situations often overshadows good news. You know, there is a natural tendency of focusing on the bad and not looking at the good. Every big company that exists today is not existing because the promoter of this company, the CEO of this company, wanted to create a big company. Trust me, most of the big companies you see today, originally, the promoters were trying to solve a problem. When you create an idea with the goal of solving a problem, the possibility of you transforming the idea into a bigger company is like 85 to 90%. All ideas that are developed with that objective. Turn out to be successful. And now, to talk about the opportunities that the COVID-19 brings
to the youths, you'll agree with me that the COVID-19 has created a lot of problems. Companies are having a lot of difficulties when it comes to their production line. Companies are having a lot of difficulties when it comes to their marketing, their branding line. Companies are having a lot of difficulties when it comes to their sales. Companies are having a lot of difficulties when it comes to doing their accounts and their finance. Companies are having a lot of difficulties with every aspect related to the operations, the running and the functioning of their company. They are having problems. How is this an opportunity? You will agree with me today that as we speak, between the year 2020 to now, the rate at which there has been the growth of mobile applications has tripled than before 2020. Why is there more production of apps? You see everywhere applications for this, applications for that, applications. Why? Because COVID-19 gave us the possibility of saying that we spoke one time here about digitalization. COVID-19 opened the opportunity for youths to understand that we are gradually closing up the paperwork era. And this is an opportunity for youths. Because if you have a small branded service in the form of a digital system, you can serve companies. Companies now function, most companies today are working with subcontractors. That's how we call them here in our market. We'll call them, most companies do partnerships. A lot of people are losing their jobs and the companies are still standing. They don't understand. People go home and you see somebody was working maybe in the human resource department or in the marketing department of the company. And then he knows that he is a key person. And then he's being fired. He says, now this company will not stand. So I'm going. He goes 1, 2, 3 months, sales are increasing. He thinks that maybe they are stealing his strategy. My friend, they have not stolen your strategy. Your strategies are even small. Companies are outsourcing. Who do companies outsource to? To individuals who build independent companies, independent services to handle particular services of companies. Companies outsource. A company can come and say, okay, I'll outsource my marketing to you. I'll outsource my... Look at MTN Cameroon. Look at Orange Cameroon. Look at all these other companies. A lot of companies out here. Brazilians and all of them. How do you think, how is their brand awareness being done? You follow comedians. Who handles... Most comedians today are brand ambassadors. What's the view? What's the goal? This is business. Companies put in more money to give to brand ambassadors than sometimes their own marketing team within. Exactly.
So, are these opportunities for youth? Yes. You see a lot of Cameroonians, everybody wants to become an artist today. Everybody wants to become a comedian. Everybody wants to become this. This is just to say that COVID-19 has given the opportunity for youth to grow in every aspect. And one thing I want to say is, let people not feel that only there exists specific aspects that can expose them to opportunities. Because some people today just feel that, okay, It's only by being a musician, it's only by being a comedian that I can have the opportunity to be maybe a brand ambassador. No. Send out your services, package them very well, let people know about what you do, they will come for you. They will come for your services.
Thank you very much. Notch APM. I'm giving issues. You rather think that there are no opportunities for youths within this period of the pandemic?
Actually, I like the last aspect of the last, part of that question. During the COVID-19 pandemic, because when I look at it, during this period, most of the companies instead laid off their workers. During this period, if we practiced the real lockdown in this country, like it is happening in it happened in Spain, in Italy, in Britain, like it is happening in other African countries, at the beginning of this week, in Rwanda, the city of Kigali practically was reopening after 15 days lockdown, and this lockdown has an impact on most workers, because companies could not withstand, the charges of taking care of their wages. For that reason, they were systematic layout of workers. And when we see an opportunity in them, I don't really see them. Instead, COVID-19 period is instead a period where most young people are instead suffering. One, if they did not go to school, remember when we had the lockdown here in the first time, schools were closed. You know the consequences of what that happens. I remember most of the parents were instead crying that this school should come first and the school should take away their children. Because they understand that this youth, the risk at which they were open to was so much. Some even said it was even more than the virus itself. Because how do you control them? The fact that they go to school, they are within some checks and balances. But at home, if you are not there, they are just free. They do what they just venture into where they are, and they get themselves, trying into other things that they are not even allowed to. By so doing, they were so exposed. I don't see an opportunity to them. Instead, I see it as this coronavirus period is a dangerous period, a dangerous moment for the young people instead, because it exposes them to so much dangers than it would have been. Look at what is happening in education. The normal 9 months period that we used to have would not exist unless the education ministers will have to extend it to go beyond what we normally have, because 1 month was cut off. Schools resumed instead of normal September in October. During this period, how do you think those who are in examination classes, how are they going to survive? During this period, those who are preparing into the university, are we not going to turn out half-baked students? Are we not going to turn out students who are not well trained? Every teacher now is struggling to, round up things, stuff ideas into the students. I don't see any opportunity. Instead, I see a period in which these young people are deprived of what is actually theirs. We are talking about the question of, using hand sanitizers and face masks. Yes, I would expect that they say young people should venture into producing this, but not in this country. Because we have youth who produce those type of things out of this country. Our young people, during this period, they instead have a moment of relaxation, a moment of carefree, a moment, and like they say, an empty, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Many evil things come up.
So are they the ones responsible for not using it as an opportunity, or someone should be responsible for that?
The climate itself, the society itself, because it does not come from them. They cannot decide and say that during this period I will go to work. They cannot decide and say that during this period I will go to school. It is beyond them. If it were within their reach, I remember my daughter, they are in class 4. At one point they were complaining, Papa, are we not going to go to school? Because this kind of thing, they are just in their house and it started becoming boring. So it is beyond them to decide whether they should or should not. Because every young person will want to be employed, but they will not have the employment. Because companies are afraid to take in workers and they will not be able to pay. Because they will not be able to meet up with their, yes, because they say their products will not actually have the turnout will not be as it used to be during the normal period when economic activities were going
booming.
on. Yes,
All right, thank you very much, Chavi. So you're concluding.
Vanessa, the four-wall enclosed educational system is a failure. Whether in Cameroon, Africa, or in the world, we repeatedly say it, and I can show proofs of that. It's a big failure. It's just to make allusion to the fact that Mr. Vanessa say, how will students continue to? Students are limited with the opportunity of learning. The greatest educational systems and the recent educational forms of learning is learning online, and trust me, within 10 years, it will prove to be the most successful. The next thing I want to ask is...
But the online studies will not be successful. In our context, we have epileptic internet supply. We don't have electricity.
And we are
talking of an inclusive education.
The question I want to ask is, do people still buy beverages during this coronavirus pandemic? Do people still do health consultations? Do people still clean their homes?
Well, of course, they have to do all that.
Okay.
It's part of their daily
Do people still do sports? Do people still want to know? Do people still want to learn new cooking skills? Do people still want to know new dishes? Do people still want to? There are so many things. If people still do these things, these are opportunities. If you know that people need beverages, you can set up a system where you do home deliveries for these beverages.
All right.
If you know that people still consult, but they don't want to go to a physical hospital, you can set up an online medical consultation platform where people can fill in their details and they will consult for a fee, and they'll be able to virtually know what is wrong with them. If you know that people still need to do exercise, you can set up a virtual system where you virtually train people on different fitness exercises. The opportunities are many. These things are not geared or built and branded for a particular group of people. These are activities that belong to the young people. It's time for everyone that sees himself as a young man to grab these opportunities, create services, have an impact on the community, and then let's forget about the COVID-19.
And let's forget about the COVID-19. Thank you very much, Chavi, an entrepreneur, and to you, Mange Venashus. Ladies and gentlemen, the week has been great. And of course, thanks to the technical crew and to all our guests who have been able to make it. We have a blessed weekend in the company of programs on DBS television. See you on Monday, God willing.